Hello, YouTube. I finally broke 2,000 again. I went down. Now I'm going back up. So this first game happened the day after I lost to Alex Botez in that match. That spontaneous 3 games of Blitz, 1 game of Bullet, like on chess.com. And okay, so part of me was like, I have to get better at Blitz and Bullet, and I have to play more on chess.com so that I can, you know, have a high Blitz rating and a high Bullet rating and not flag. But then I was like, why though? Like, why do I need to do that? You know? And I was able to resist the urge of going back into the Blitz and Bullet addiction mindset, and I decided to go to chess that day and play like a long game. Because the reason I think I've progressed so much in my actual chess understanding and how much I enjoy chess is because of quitting Bullet and quitting Blitz. So why would I go back to that? So anyway, it was like a growing thing for me where I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna fall into the chess.com trap of wanting everything to be fast and instant gratification and wanting to degrade chess, you know? Because it's just not it. That ain't it, Chief. Yes, I only play Bullet for clips. But okay, so I was paired with a master. I'd only played one other round in this tournament, also against Brian Wall, and I had lost. But that was like the happiest I had ever been to lose to Brian Wall, because he just got out of the hospital, and it meant he was making a very good recovery, because I beat him the last 2 games I had played him, so it felt pretty good to lose to him. But he's all better now. Anyway, this is too much backstory. I've been talking for too long. We've lost the audience retention. Alright, now that all the fake fans are gone, hello chess enjoyers. So, okay. By long time control, I mean game 70 with a 10-second delay, which is kind of fast, in my opinion. But it's fine. So I did not know what to expect here. This guy has been, he's on his floor currently. He's not old or anything. He's just been playing really weird lately, and I don't really know why. His evaluations during this entire game were a little bit confusing, is all I'll say. So, this is a G3 King's Indian, not a Catalan, for those of you who are wondering. After castles, you play knight c3, so that d5 is not a possibility, or it's not good. If you play knight f3 right away, d5 is good. So we play knight c3. And then my opponent played c5, and the great thing about this is I had already prepped the Banco for another opponent that I didn't end up getting to use the prep for. So I had like a little bit of understanding of the Banco, so I was able to do it. Okay, so the Banco Gambit entails sacrificing 2 pawns on the queen side for these open files and pressure from the dark squared bishop. Now, this opening is what some may call a scrub buster, used by strong players to beat weak players. So, I took that to mean that I was a scrub. I was like, okay, whatever. I don't know. I'm kind of a scrub. Bishop takes a6, castles, and knight d7. So, I remembered that you have to play rook b1 in here after knight d7, but I didn't remember why. So even though I knew it was the right move, I thought here for like 5 minutes, just trying to figure it out. And I think it has something to do with bishop c4, but I still don't really remember. Maybe some people know. Like if I just... I don't know if there's an exact reason. It's always good to get the rook off of this diagonal, in case you need to... I guess the reason is in case you need to play b3 in response to bishop c4. I guess that makes sense. After knight b6. That's my guess. But I just played rook b1. Queen a5. Sure. Bishop d2. So bishop d2 is the typical response to queen a5. But my opponent told me that rook b1 was weird, and it's not. It's the best move. He also said bishop d2 was bad and weird, and it's not. It's the best move. So I don't know what was going on with him, but I was still sort of in theory here. So I'm not in theory. I just kind of know where the pieces are supposed to go. And at this point, I was pretty sure queen c2 was the move, but I wasn't so sure that I really liked allowing knight g4 to e5, and I didn't know. I was just having trouble evaluating things because I didn't understand the position. So I played h3 because I didn't see anything wrong with it, and I thought it's always useful to prevent this. And it is also good. It is the second best move. Queen c2 is the move, but I kind of figured I would rather play a move like h3 that makes more sense to me than play a move based on memory and not learn anything. I find that you learn more when you actually play the moves that you're curious about, because getting better at chess requires curiosity and thinking. This is shocking, I know, but you can't just follow like a set of rules and like how someone else got better at chess. You can't just follow what they did. That's not going to work for you. The best way to get better at chess is to, if you're curious about something, look into it. Study that. Figure it out. Don't just, okay, I have to study openings because that's what I have to do. If openings don't interest you, study endgames, you know? It's not that deep. Anyway, h3 is perfectly fine, and if it wasn't, I was going to be taught a lesson on why, and then I would never forget it. So anyway, queen b4 is weird. Apparently his point of queen b5, or queen b4, is to play knight e4. But I think that's a little bit odd because I was going to play queen c2 regardless, the next move, so it kind of doesn't really do anything. It's just an odd-looking move that I don't like. It's just not a good move. So I played queen c2. I don't really understand what's happening. And he said he was disappointed to see this, which was shocking to me because I didn't know that I had another move. So bishop c4 is very strange. Now we can see the importance of putting the rook on b1. Because I believe after knight d7, if I don't play rook b1, if I do, like, okay, like if I play h3 here, knight b6, I don't know, queen c2? Oh, that hangs a pawn. Oh, there's gotta be a reason. Rook e1, maybe. I'm just kind of guessing here. I don't actually know. I can't play b3 here, I guess, because of this. I'm assuming this is the reason. Maybe not in this exact move order, but I'm just saying hypothetically that that's why rook b1, okay? Anyway. So rook b1 prepared against bishop c4, and he played it anyway. So I just play b3, and he has to go back. White's position is fantastic. It's like +2 here. He moved this piece twice, 3 times. And I think that the obvious plan for black is to play c4. So I kind of thought for a long time here about where to put my rook, because I think it's pretty good on all 3 squares. I ended up choosing the best one, but for the wrong reason. So I played the best move, but my reasoning was incorrect, so I don't count it. So the reason I would play rook e1 would be to prepare e4, e5, getting some play in the center. The reason I would play rook d1 would also be to prepare e4, e5, and also just have a defender on the d-pawn, just keeping it solid. And the reason I would play rook c1 would be just a little bit of a preventative move for c4. It doesn't prevent it, but it kind of prepares for it. And this move I just made sort of on instinct because I couldn't decide. All 3 moves seemed good to me. And they are. They're the top 3 moves. It's just a matter of taste. So I play rook c1. And then my opponent shows me the point of what he did. So for some reason I didn't see queen a3 coming, but when it was played, I was like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. This is kind of obvious to me now. And the queen is a little bit annoying here, and he's getting out of the way to prepare c4. At this point, I'm thinking I've been a little bit too passive and I need to create some counterplay in the center. Because if I do nothing, he plays c4, then like, what the fuck am I doing? There's really, the computer line is something I considered, but something that I would probably never ever play unless it was prep. because of how difficult it is to evaluate, I'd say. So, yeah, white has options here, but one plan is far superior to any other. So what does the chat think? I very much dislike these positions and have decided to start taking on c5. Why do you dislike it? You're up a pawn. Are you a scrub and you keep getting busted? Theory adjacent. It's getting out of the way of my rook. It's always nice to have your rook on the same file as the queen. Whenever your opponent puts their rook on the same file as your queen, you probably want to move it. Woo! Thank you, KegTap, for the Twitch Prime. Black has an easier game. If white doesn't know what they're doing, I agree. But I feel like the first time this is played against you, that's a valid excuse. But after that, like, just learn how to play it. Like, it's a scrub buster for a reason. People don't play this against opponents of equal or greater strength for a reason. Knight a4 and hang everything. That was my first instinct, actually. But I was like, the way I talked myself out of knight a4 was that it breaks chess principles. It puts a knight on the edge of the board. And so I was like, I'm just not going to consider that anymore. And it's yeah, terrible move. Also, it hangs the pawn. But it looks intriguing because the queen is out of squares. Okay, so the computer likes two moves for the same reason, just different move orders. e4 is what I played, and I think e4 is the most human logical response. And it's the next best thing to what the computer likes. The reason you would play e4 is because if you sit back and do nothing, this is how you get steamrolled in the banco. e4 is just gaining space in the center, and it's kind of creating a plan of e5. And I feel like if I keep being passive, then I might end up being worse. So that's why I played e4. However, the correct move is another retreat. Two different retreats are good. So the computer likes knight e1 here and queen d1 with the same idea of playing knight c2. And I considered this, but I was like, there's no way I can evaluate this because I just don't I don't know. Like, if I'm spending two moves to kick the queen, and then what is my knight doing on c2? I just couldn't figure it out, and it looked too difficult for me to understand, so I just stopped looking at it. And I think that was honestly the right decision, because even if I had decided to do it, if I don't fully understand why I'm doing it, I'm not going to follow it up very well. So the computer line is knight e1, rook b7, queen d1, rook b8, knight c2, queen a5, and then knight e3 or knight a4. Knight e3 makes a lot of sense to me, because I remember having the thought of, my bishop is like, I know it's supposed to go there, but if it weren't there, I could go knight d2 to c4 sometimes. Is it going to c4 is my question? Because I don't even know. Knight e3, queen a3 apparently, and rook c2. See, this is computer chess. I can't understand anything that's happening, and it's like long-term understanding that would be required to play this. I was like 1990 something, and my opponent was a national master, 2200. And I broke 2000 from this game. So this is something that I don't understand, and I don't know if I ever will. That's in conclusion. But the cool thing is that Josh's suggestion was knight e1, so take that however you would like. I did win. So e4 I think is the much more human move. Josh found this in like 2 minutes. That boy's on juice or something. And my opponent immediately responds with c4. No thought. And then here I actually have like a winning move. But it feels counterintuitive to me. So white to play here again. I couldn't find anything better than trading everything and going into what I assessed as a slightly better endgame for me. I felt like I had already kind of messed it up and I didn't know where. Okay, so knight d4 allows knight c5, which is what I didn't like. So knight d4 to c6 is incorrect. We're giving up the d3 square, and also the c5 square. What's the knight doing here? Like rook b7? It's the most forward move, so it's what you look at first, but you have to find the correct idea, which I think none of you will. I found part of the idea, just not in combination with knight d4. kind of gave away the answer that knight d4 is part of it. Bishop e3 seems wrong. I don't know. Well, it doesn't really prevent it because I don't really want to give up my dark squared bishop for a knight. But you're on the right track of preventing the knight from coming to c5. I need to get my score sheet so I can share how much time, because I think it's pretty relevant. My opponent is known for moving very fast. He's from New York and used to play action time controls, which are hybrid, quick, and regular rated, but they're like fast time controls. And he plays every time control like it's like that. Okay, so after, what move is this, 17? So he played c4, he had 64 minutes left, he started with 70, and I had 39. So the line I went for, because I couldn't find anything better, was... okay, so b4 is another part of the idea, and I looked at b4, but b4, like, I think just here? If not, I can even do this plan. Like, I pointed that plan out to my opponent that, like, after h3, since knight g4, knight e5 isn't a plan anymore, most of the time the knight will go e8 to c7. I don't see so the trick is, I was trying to make a practical decision here about my time management, because I've been told to work on that. I couldn't find... I felt like I should have something, but I couldn't find it. So I went for the line that looked like it had absolutely no problems with it. That's what I did. But okay, so the knight d4 is correct. And okay, knight c5 is what I didn't like about this. But now b4. Now b4. And if rook takes b4 in this position, bam! The point of knight d4 was to support knight b5. And white is just winning here. So, yes, now before. So take a minute and just take all that in, try and understand it. I'm sure it'll take you a minute. Maybe I'm like too confident, but I think I would have found this in game 90, 30-second increment. Because I found both ideas, I just needed to connect them. Which has happened. So we're attacking the queen, and we're attacking the rook. And you can't do both. Queen d3 hangs the rook. But, I mean, yeah, what else? And if he takes my rook, I take his queen. So, this is not something that I considered, so I did not go for it. But if I saw it, I would have done it. Instead, I saw this line where I was like, okay, like, I wasn't sure he was gonna play bishop takes c4, but if he did, I saw this was the line I saw. Bishop takes c4 is the best move. If he just plays, like, knight c5, I might even have e5, was what I was thinking. So he goes here, and I couldn't figure this shit out. This was too high level for me, and, I don't have a lot of time. So I just trade everything, play knight b1, and because this was such a forcing line, it was easier for me to calculate, and it left, more energy to correctly assess the position at the end. So queen takes a2 is the only move. And we do these mass trades, and this is the position we're left with. And I think this is a really good exercise, actually, evaluating this position. My opponent and I came to vastly different conclusions when analyzing this position. I think a lot of people will have a lot of very different opinions about this position. Okay, so bishop pair is definitely a thing to consider. But also a thing to consider is my backwards e-pawn. Here's what I thought about, okay? When I first looked at this position, when deciding if I should take on c4 or not, I thought black was a little bit better. Because, okay, it looks like his rook is more active. He has a nice square for his knight on c5. And he can do this, and put his knights like this. And my rook is slightly weird on c4. However, I have two bishops, and the thing with two bishops is, even if they're not good right now, they always have the potential to become good, which is something I found intriguing. Black has some serious back rank issues because of bishop h6. Black also has some serious 7th rank issues because of his e-pawn, and if he ever, like, he has to defend it in some really annoying way, like king f8 or bishop f8. If he pushes it, then the d-pawn becomes weak. Now, another one of black's weaknesses is the c6 square, and if I can get my knight there, I think I'm better. My 7th rank or the 2nd rank is a little bit shaky as well, but I can always just play bishop e3. So I kind of came to the conclusion that it's equal, but I like white, because I thought I had a few different easy plans. I have a plan of maybe trying to get e5 in, especially because knight c5 is, like, I thought relatively forced here, because one of his only assets to his position is the c5 square. So if he doesn't put his knight there, then what is he doing? But if he does, it can be undermined by e5, potentially. I think I have more chances to make a passed pawn here as well. And while my rook might look weird on c4, it's doing an important job of creating the starts of the start of a gimp suit. Okay. So my opponent's assessment of the position was white is lost, and I'm getting mated. It's incorrect. It's equal, completely equal. The only way black would have a 0.1 edge is if he plays a really weird looking move that I didn't consider and he didn't consider. Knight b6 is the best move. I suppose it takes care of the back rank problems, but it's just odd looking, giving up the square and allowing my rook to come to the 7th. It's very odd, but it concretely works because he can just take on e4. For some reason, I didn't consider this. I really, really should have. This is dead equal, but I do agree that I like black better in this position because he gets one of my bishops if he wants it. I don't know if he wants it or not. This is looking a lot more equal, so I can understand why the master wouldn't go for this. I just didn't look at it because I suck. I don't have an excuse. I just didn't look at it. I thought knight c5 was forced. I thought that's like where his try to be better is coming from, is just having strong knights in the center. My opponent played knight c5, and now we have a choice here again. So I only have one defender on this pawn now, and he has 2 attackers. Therefore, I need to do something about that. So white to play here again. I had to play kind of precisely for the rest of the game. I don't think I actually did anything wrong in this game except for missing knight d4, b4. And also missing knight e1, queen d1, knight c2. Right, so if I have to play knight e1, I hate my position. I agree. Retreating is always a terrible sign. So let's look at our forward moves first. Yes, my opponent had something in mind that this just like shocked me, but the position is dead equal. I maintain that I prefer white here. If I had to choose who to play here, I would take white. For the reasons I said, for the bishops, for the c6 square, for the plan of e5. I fought for like 10 minutes here, and I tried to get e5 to work for a long time. Shockingly, e5 is not a bad move. My point was after knight takes d5, I wanted to play rook d4. And, like, wherever he moves, if he moves the knight here, I can play e takes d6. If he takes my rook, then I have d takes e7, and his rook cannot get back. If he plays, here, same thing, I play e takes d6. And if he takes, I take the knight, and he still can't get back. But then I was, oh, he can just play e6, and then I was upset. Even this is not terrible for white, but I decided against e5 because it's kind of easily refuted. And then I found the best move. Thanks for the 7-month salty clown. Little dancing Daniel emote there. So we want to go forward. We don't want to play knight g1, we don't want to play knight e1. We don't want to play knight h4. So what does that leave? So what were the other things I mentioned about why his position is sort of weak strategically? We already looked at e5. Yay, the villain! Thanks for the 9 months. Okay, so we've said every possible knight move except for the correct one. I love that. We've said every possible knight move except for the correct move. Knight d4 is correct, that's what I played. So the other thing about his position that makes it weak, and the reason I liked it, was because of his back rank problems, if we recall. And the thing stopping my rook from coming to the back rank is the knight. So is he really threatening to take twice here? or just once. So with some simple calculation, I can play knight d4, and okay, this is obviously losing because of rook c8 and bishop h6, something I mentioned. And hopefully this helps illustrate why I like white. I think that his pieces just lack harmony, and they're just kind of in each other's ways. Same thing happens if you take this way. I still have this. This is just mating. So, knight d4 defends the e-pawn by breaking up the connection of the rook and the pawn. Also, it's heading for the c6 square. So already, I was very surprised that it was equal here. I really like white's position. Go Chelato! Thanks for the gift sub to Mass Refugi. Okay, so if knight d4 can be played, white is obviously doing just fine. In general, white should avoid queen exchanges because this ending is easy to play for black. What did I just say? I just said this is very difficult for black because of the things that I said. My knight is coming to c6 to attack and harass the e-pawn. If he moves the e-pawn, the d-pawn is weak. What? Easy for black. Okay. Okay, so here's where everything started to go a little awry, amok, if you will, for my opponent. So my opponent assessed this as white is lost, black is checkmating, and he played the move h5. h5 doesn't look that weird to me because he's addressing his back rank problem. I thought it didn't really do much though because I can still play knight c6 and he still has to deal with the e7 pawn. I thought like king f8 makes more sense. It's not a pretty move to make, but h5 seems weakening to me. Now little did I know that the idea behind h5 was to play h4, knight h5, takes, bishop e5, and bishop g3 checkmate. Do you understand? Difficult for you. Difficult for the X2300 chess master as well. Literally forced mate. Okay, so that was what my opponent was doing. I didn't see any of this coming until like he stopped addressing my threats. So this is kind of an unhinged attack. Okay, so white is already a little bit better. Knight c6, attacking the e7 pawn. Now, I feel like a normal person would like do something about that, right? In the post-mortem we were saying e5 was probably what he has to do, but I still liked white there. Because again, e5 weakens the d-pawn. My knight is forever on c6, and I can even sometimes take on e5. It's something he has to be careful of. Just immediately create a passed pawn. Okay, but my opponent decided that this was a non-threat, and that checkmate is way more important than the e7 pawn. So he played h4. And this, I kind of want to see how long I thought here, because god damn, h4 was shocking. I had 25 minutes left, and I only thought for 2 minutes. That's kind of surprising for me. I think that's good time management on my part. I got another subscriber from, okay, there's like 7 ways to enunciate this. I'll just call you, all of the L's and the I's blend together for me, so it's hard. Thanks for the sub. Okay, moving on. M's elitist. Oh, is that what that says? I thought it was M, and then like the S is where the second word starts. I was like, what does that mean? Okay, moving on from my inability to read. Go Chelato. Thanks for the George gift sub. Okay. So, at this point, I kind of started to understand a little bit what was happening, although I kind of just brushed it off as insane, because just purely for meta reasons and looking at this person's other games, sometimes chess masters, like, just kind of bluff a little bit and expect their weaker opponent to believe them. And I didn't believe this for a second. I thought it was insane. I calculated one line that looked winning, and I went for it. which is something I don't think normally I would have done. I think since I'm improving at time management, I was able to do this. Thanks for the sub, Tagbon. I am from Chess TikTok, yes. At first, I wanted to play e5, but then I realized that knight takes e7, followed by king f8. e5 now is looked winning to me. This looked simple. So the reason I played e5 here is because if he takes, bishop f4 check, and he's forced backwards, because now that my knight is out of the way and my bishop is defending the d-pawn, he has to go back in some way. I don't even see a good way to do it, but once he goes back, I take his his knight. I have two bishops that are now open. His king is weak, and I have a passed pawn, and his pawn structure is suspicious. So I thought this looked, if not winning, better for white. e5 is so thematic. So I have better wins here. I think best is to just go back, which makes a lot more sense because I'm still threatening e5. I was just sort of going for simplification at this point, but looking at knight c6, it seems quite obvious that it's the best move. It's not that much better than my move, but it's definitely more hopeless for black. So, my opponent did not take here, which is a blunder. He has to take this knight. My opponent, oh sorry, I played e5. My opponent took on g3 with check, and played knight h5. And I think only now was I truly seeing his plan. Like, was I like finally understanding it? Because I was like, oh, he wants to checkmate me. And then I thought about that for like 5 seconds, and then I like defended it, and then like, what? Where is this going? The answer is nowhere. Black is completely lost. It's very, very strange for me. The game doesn't end here, though. Yay, Anonymous! Thanks for the gift sub to Camel Clutcher. Yeah, it's pretty bad when your whole winning plan is just like, I just like play knight c6 and it's over. It's a bit strange. But my opponent is still going for checkmate. So he plays rook d1. And I have two moves here that I think win. I have e takes d, which was the first thing that popped into my head. And I have bishop b4. I think this is a style choice. I would be interested to see what people like more. They're both winning. My reasoning was I liked e takes d more, but I thought bishop b4 cuts out a lot of hope for him. And it was a more devastating move in my opinion, because it involves like checks happening as well. E takes d doubles the pawns. See, it doubles the pawns, but it's also my d-pawn is acting as like a shield for my d-pawn, and like the best way to catch a passed pawn is by putting a rook behind it. But you can't put a rook behind it if there's another guy in the way. I agree. Bishop b4 looks cleaner. I went for bishop b4 because I thought there were fewer avenues for me to go down that are blunders. Is that a sentence? I don't know. I got 500 bits from Spinola? What? Sure. They both win. I think in like Blitz or Bullet, I would always take on d6 just because aesthetically I like it. I think the computer says e takes d is 0.1 better than bishop b4. Bishop b4 is plus 5.1, e takes d is plus 5.2. But this seemed more devastating. Keeping the bishop pair aspect alive. So, knight d3. Bringing another piece into the attack, because this is checkmate, except for that I can take. But almost. So I make the most forcing move on the board, e takes d, threatening d7, check, and the king is completely cut off. So it would force king g8 followed by queens. So to me this seemed like where to resign. But I did not see that there was forced checkmate, apparently. My opponent tries taking on b4, so at least it's not check. But again, you see, this is a common thing where if the rook has to approach the pawn from the sides and it's already on the 7th rank, it can't get in front of the pawn. So this is just terrible. Also, if he tries like rook a1, I can just play either rook b8 or even knight b8 is kind of silly, and just push the pawn. So that only leaves bishop f6 to try and stop this from happening. King e8 looks like you're getting mated somehow, like this followed by... Oh yeah, this is mate. Yeah, this is mate. So that's something I saw. So I thought bishop f6 was forced here. But the funny thing about bishop f6 is I was actually planning to just go g4. G4 is hilarious because the knight is out of squares, except for g7. What bishop f6 does, not only does it cover the promotion square, it gives way for the king. But after g4, he has to play knight g7 and get checkmated. So my opponent played bishop h6, which is, I think, a better try, because he wants to go to g5. Is what I thought. I played d7, expecting bishop g5, and, like, resigns shortly after. But then my opponent shocked me again with bishop e3. So bishop e3 is not good, but you gotta understand, I have 9 minutes left and my opponent has 45. And my opponent is a master and I am not. And I have never beaten this person. I've only drawn. Listen, for a second, I got scared. But then I was like, okay, this is nonsense. I'm not gonna gaslight myself. I'm gonna make my queen. And he wants to give perpetual check or mate. So the threat is bishop g1, king h1, knight g3 checkmate. So after, like, being scared for 30 seconds, I was like, okay, well, what if I just, like, make a space for my king? And that was a good question that I asked. What if? What if I just make a space for my king? We give check. King h3. Rook d3, threatening mate. Again. So what if I just defend the mate? Good question. Bishop f2. Threatening something, I'm sure. But here, I played the move knight e5 with 5 minutes left on the clock. And knight e5 is actually threatening rook takes g6. And the rook. So this is a fork. If he moves the rook, take on g6, takes, queen d7 or e7, and all moves lead to mate. This is mate in 1. This is mate... I think if I go via the light squares is the fastest way. Yeah. And then yeah, like king g8. Oops. King g8, queen f7, mate. So he resigned after thinking for, like, I don't know, I didn't write it down. But my opponent resigned here. And he said, I can't let you take on g6. And I was like, why not? So anyway, weird game. I don't know, like, I don't know what was going on with those evaluations, but eventually Zeph will have beaten all the Colorado Masters. Final boss fight. So it's not like my favorite game, you know, like where I've beaten a master, because he just kind of like keeled over and died. But at the same time, I played the opening better than him. I understood the position better than him. I evaluated better than him. And I didn't get scared by his weird bullshit attack. I just played chess. I feel like people kind of expect to beat me kind of regardless because of my poor time management and my severe mental issues on the chessboard, where I just gaslight myself constantly. But here I was not doing that. I was just like, I don't know, this looks good for me. And yeah, I didn't really do anything wrong in this game. There were some cool points, like knight d4 was pretty cool, followed by this. Like, yeah, if I had found this move here, that would have been awesome. But yeah, I don't know, pretty good. So that game, I won an upset prize for that. I got $20 for being the highest upset in the tournament, and I used that money to buy this. So I feel like that adds to the humiliation a little bit. Yeah, his name is Mumford. He's a cow. People think he's a pig, but he's a cow. He's very obviously a cow. Blind piggy, but it's a cow. This was only on $10. I had $10 to spare. It looks, yeah, he has a funny nose like a pig, but he also, like, why is his mouth like that? I like his funny face so much that I put him on my bed Like that. So he's the first thing I see when I walk in my room is his face. But yeah, I slammed him on his floor. He's a floor master now. It gets better. So I actually played him again on Sunday, which is what we're gonna look at next.